People who've met psychopaths, when did you know? My college roommate. She never showed emotion when watching sad movies, but would laugh at inappropriate times. The real moment was when she found a lost dog and pretended to call the number on the tag while actually keeping it in our apartment. When the missing dog posters went up, she'd walk by them and say, "Too bad they'll never find him." She kept that dog for 2 weeks before our RA discovered it and called the real owners. She didn't understand why anyone was upset and kept saying finders keepers like it was a dropped pencil, not someone's beloved pet. My ex-boss. Always charming to clients, but absolutely vicious to staff when no one important was watching. The moment I knew for sure was during layoffs. He called people into his office one by one, and I overheard him through the thin walls. He'd use the exact same speech, complete with a perfectly timed voice crack when saying how personally difficult this was for him. 5th time I heard it, I realized he was just acting. Later caught him practicing his sad face in the bathroom mirror. Left that job within a month. Neighbor kid who lived down the street when I was growing up. He was always a little off, but the moment I realized something was seriously wrong was when I saw him trap a bird with a broken wing. Instead of helping it, he put it in a shoebox and carried it around for days, showing it off like a trophy. He'd open the box slightly to peek in and smile. The bird obviously died, and when I asked him about it, he just shrugged and said, "I guess I forgot to feed it," with zero emotion. Same kid later got expelled for. My sister's ex-boyfriend. Super charismatic guy. Everyone loved him. What gave it away was how he mimicked people's personalities depending on who he was talking to. With my dad, he was suddenly into fishing and beer. With my mom, he was passionate about cooking. With me, indie music. It was like watching a chameleon. The clincher was when I accidentally saw his notes app. He kept detailed information on everyone in our family. Likes, dislikes, topics to avoid, and manipulation tactics for each person. My sister broke up with him after he tried to isolate her from us. Still gives me chills. My childhood best friend who lived next door. When we were about 9, her hamster died and she showed zero reaction. Later that day, I found her in the backyard burying it, but she was completely dry-eyed and humming happily. When I asked if she was sad, she looked at me confused and said, "Why would I be? I can just get another one that looks the same, and my parents won't know the difference." She'd also steal small things from everyone's houses when invited over, then lie about it with impressive conviction. Last I heard, she's in finance making 6 figures. A guy I dated briefly. On our 3rd date, we saw a car accident happen right in front of us. Nothing fatal, but definitely scary. While I was shaking and concerned, he was completely calm, which I initially thought was admirable. But then I noticed he was filming the whole thing on his phone, zooming in on the bloody nose of one driver. Later, at dinner, he kept wanting to rewatch the video, analyzing everyone's reactions like it was a sports replay. His eyes literally lit up when describing the crunch sound. I made an excuse to end the date early and blocked his number that night. My former landlord. He'd randomly enter apartments without notice, totally illegal, and when confronted would act confused like he didn't understand why that wasn't okay. The real red flag was during a massive building flood. While everyone was panicking about their ruined belongings, he was calmly taking photos and telling people their renter's insurance would cover it. It wouldn't. His negligence caused the flood. Later found out he'd done the same thing in 3 other buildings he owned. The creepiest part was his empty smile when residents were crying. He nodded sympathetically, but his eyes were completely dead. My high school lab partner. We were dissecting frogs, and while everyone else was squeamish, she was way too into it. Started making little cuts beyond what the instructions called for, whispering interesting to herself. When the bell rang, she asked if she could take the frog home to finish exploring. Teacher said no, obviously. Next day, I noticed she had brought her own scalpel to school. When I asked about it, she just smiled and said, "You never know when you'll find something worth examining." I requested a partner change immediately. Coworker at my first job out of college. Super intelligent guy who could charm anyone. What tipped me off was how he deliberately caused drama then sit back and watch it unfold. He'd tell different versions of conversations to different people, creating conflicts, then offer to mediate. I caught on when he told me our boss was criticizing my work, then told my boss I was bad-mouthing her. Neither was true. When confronted, he didn't deny it. He just seemed impressed I'd figured it out. Scariest part, he's now a family therapist. My former friend's husband always seemed normal, if a bit cold. Then one night at dinner at their place, their dog knocked over a glass. The way he looked at that dog, I still get chills. Pure hatred, but completely controlled. As soon as he noticed me watching, his expression instantly switched to this perfect, oh silly dog smile. Later that night, I went to use the bathroom and overheard him whispering to the dog in the laundry room. The tone was so menacing I couldn't make out the words, but the dog was cowering. I called Animal Services anonymously the next day. My first boyfriend in high school seemed totally normal until we were at a party and his mask slipped. Someone spilled drink on his shoes and he smiled politely, said, "No problem." Then I followed him to the bathroom where he punched the wall so hard he broke a tile, whispering to himself about how he was going to ruin that person's life. He didn't know I could hear him. When he came out, the pleasant smile was back instantly. We broke up a week later, and he spread horrible rumors about me. Years later, found out he became a cop in our hometown. My college professor. Super brilliant, but something was off. He'd stare at students who were struggling like they were fascinating specimens. The moment I knew was during finals week. A student was having a panic attack in the hall. While everyone else was helping, he just observed, taking mental notes with this little half-smile. Later heard him tell another professor it was an extraordinary display of human weakness. Same guy would remember every personal detail students mentioned once in passing, then bring them up months later in weirdly specific ways. My ex-friend who I met through work. She could cry on command. Instant tears that looked completely real. First I thought she was just emotional, then I realized she only cried when it benefited her. The moment I knew something was seriously wrong was when her grandmother died. She called me sobbing uncontrollably, but I happened to be near her apartment and stopped by with food. Caught her laughing on the phone about how she gets sympathy days off work. When she saw me, she switched instantly back to devastated, grieving granddaughter without missing a beat. My childhood neighbor. We were about 10 and found a nest of baby rabbits. I was excited but careful not to touch them so their mom wouldn't abandon them. He suggested we take care of them, and I naively agreed. He returned with a shovel. I freaked out and ran to tell my parents. They called his parents, who weren't surprised at all. Found out years later he tortured neighborhood cats and eventually was arrested as a teenager for setting fires. The truly chilling thing was how he could switch from normal kid to completely cold in seconds. My sister's ex-husband. At their wedding, he gave this beautiful, tearful speech about his love for her that had everyone crying. Later that night, I accidentally walked in on him in an empty hallway practicing the exact same emotional speech, complete with the voice cracks and tear wipes. He was rehearsing like an actor. When he saw me, he just winked and said, "Gotta give the people what they want." Didn't think much of it then, but during their divorce 3 years later, he showed zero emotion while absolutely destroying her in court. Like it was all just a game to him. My former housemate in college. The red flag I missed was how she'd steal small things from everyone. Nothing valuable, just random items like a single sock or a cheap pen, then find them later to appear helpful. The moment I knew something was seriously wrong was when my grandmother died and she comforted me perfectly, saying all the right things. Later that night, I overheard her on the phone mimicking my crying to her friend and laughing about how she nailed the supportive roommate role. She literally referred to comforting me as a performance. I moved out the next week. This guy who used to work at our local coffee shop, always super friendly, remembered everyone's orders, seemed like the nicest person. Then one day a homeless man was sitting outside the shop. Coffee guy goes out with what looks like a free coffee, but I saw him spit in it first. When I confronted him later, he just shrugged and said, no one important will believe him anyway. No remorse, no shame. Just cold calculation about who matters and who doesn't in society. His perfect customer service smile never once faltered during the entire conversation. I reported him, and he was fired. My ex. I knew something was off when my dog who loves everyone would hide whenever he came over. The defining moment was when I cut my hand badly while cooking. I was panicking at the sight of blood, but he just stared at the cut with this intense fascination. Didn't help, didn't call 911, just watched the blood drip with these weirdly bright eyes. When I screamed at him to get towels, he snapped out of it and suddenly became super attentive. After we broke up for unrelated reasons, I found out he'd been telling mutual friends I was mentally unstable and he was afraid for his safety. Classic projection. Elementary school principal when I was growing up. Total Jekyll and Hyde situation. In public, he was this beloved community figure, always volunteering, church deacon, the works. But to certain kids, completely different person. He had this ability to silently intimidate with just his eyes. My moment was when I saw him corner a kid who'd been sent to his office. From the hallway, I could see him smiling warmly, hand on the kid's shoulder, but the kid was trembling and crying. Then the principal saw me watching, and his face did this terrifying instant switch to concerned educator. Found out years later he'd been embezzling from the school for decades. My former best friend from high school. Always thought she was just super competitive until senior year when I got accepted to our dream college and she didn't. She hugged me, said all the right congratulatory things, then immediately spread rumors I cheated on exams. The real moment I knew something was deeply wrong was finding my college acceptance letter in her bedroom. She'd stolen it from my backpack and burned little holes in it with a cigarette. When confronted, she didn't deny it, just said with this eerie calmness, "You don't deserve good things if I can't have them too."